All right, recording.
Recording, you check the temporary file, or we're all good?
Um, yeah, I guess I could see if it's there, but we should be good.
All
Let's,
right, so episode 2 already, 2015.
oh wait, hold,
First
don't
of all,
don't start your spiel just yet. I am
no,
gonna.
Yeah, bro, I gotta
assuming you
war- I
guys use
gotta warm
water.
up the sultriness.
Yeah,
Oh,
seriously.
Jesus Christ, you know what? I'm a father of two. I gotta always be just like on point, on my toes, right away, on the go.
Right.
All right, well,
I don't even remember where
so
this
what's up?
freaking file was.
Okay,
How
we're
you
doing
want to
we're
follow?
doing what are we doing? We're doing Suzuki.
So episode 2 of Barb's CRC podcast. First and foremost, Happy New Year to whichever barfer is listening right now. And again, Happy New Year to my fellow co-hosts, Kevin and Rob. What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going? Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
So before we do get started off here, just kind of have a little bit of a pleasantry here. How was the holidays for you guys? Kevin, do you typically stay local whenever it's the holidays, or do you go off somewhere like you normally do?
Oh no, I legit didn't do anything except hang out with my cats.
Is
It
that
was just
kind of
me
a
and cats, dude.
is that standard operating procedure for you during the holidays?
It was great. It was awesome. Now my family's really small. My mom only lives about 8 minutes from me, so the holidays don't represent like family time that I wouldn't otherwise see. And with no kids or no young kids in the family, it's like we had dinner and it was just a day off work.
That's awesome. I'm
And
jealous. I'm jealous.
Yeah, which is great. I'm not complaining even a little. It was great.
why? What did you end up doing, Rob?
I did exactly the opposite. I actually made it back into the Bay. If people don't know, I'm currently in San Diego, but flew into SFO, drove to Santa Cruz, drove to Fremont, drove back to SFO to return the shitty rental car. Uh, then drove back to Fremont, drove to Stockton, hung out there, drove to Dublin, and then back to Stockton, then back to SFO.
You went
Is
to
this
all
because
the
of
cities you'd never go to on like a tourist visit to the Bay Area.
Yeah, exactly.
Stockton and
what?
Dublin.
Did you go to all these places because of family, friends? What I mean, well,
Yeah. My dad's parents live in Santa Cruz, and my dad lives in Fremont, and that's where I was,
ah,
born and raised. And then my mom lives in Stockton now, so it's better. She moved out of Lodi to Stockton, so it's a slight upgrade.
well, I kind of ended up doing a combination of what you both did. I mean, I flew for 3 weeks to the East Coast to New Jersey to visit my in-laws because that's where my in-laws are. But once I got there, I basically just stayed in the house like Kevin did because it's blistering cold that you don't really want to go out and do anything.
Yeah, I heard the weather was pretty bad back there, right, for the holidays.
No, not bad. I mean, we were there for 3 weeks. The first week was raining, the whole week. The second week was dry. The third and final week it was snowed. But really, all 3 weeks it was just too cold that even if you wanted to go somewhere, you're only going somewhere to go back inside anyway. That people don't even want to do anything. But I wouldn't say it was bad. It was just it is what it is. It's East Coast weather. It's cold. It's not California basically.
It's definitely not San Diego.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't even know if you guys can tell, but I'm actually at the tail end of a little bit of a holiday cold, so I'm slightly congested. I may cough here and there, so I apologize for that in advance. But otherwise, I think we are good to go here. So, in this episode, we want to continue into the discussion of manufacturer competition. In the last episode, having talked about Mark Marquez, we were his dominance on the Honda. We segued into the Honda versus Yamaha territory. So I think this episode would be a good opportunity to continue on that with the other two major factories in MotoGP that would effectively be in competition with one another, that being Ducati and Suzuki. Uh, these two manufacturers are effectively going to compete in a league of their own. They're both going to be under the factory two option regulations, which you know, uh, they afford a different and more liberal set of regulations than Honda and Yamaha are subject to. I think more engine allotment, more fuel, softer tires. Is that about right, Rob?
Yep. Well, and the biggest one actually is pretty much unlimited testing. So they
Oh,
don't.
really?
Oh yeah, they can test with their contracted riders any time, and the only limit they have is tires. So Honda and Yamaha have the same sort of tire limit. I think
Yeah.
the last number that I saw was like 240 tires or something between both factory riders, which is a lot. I mean, for your normal track day
But
guy, but I'm sure they go
Yeah.
through a ton.
Except Honda's like, oh, we can't use Marc Marquez, so we'll just get Stoner to ride it.
Yeah.
which, by the way, renewed.
It's not. They don't have some super old non-GP riders circling some laps. They got the fastest man alive playing around.
Yeah,
for
just a little
their rider.
sidebar to that. Actually, Stoner just renewed the contract to continue becoming HRC's test rider.
Right.
Yeah, he's just,
Yeah.
I mean, he got paid for so many rainy days last year. He probably felt bad for Nakamoto-san and just wanted to help him out some more.
That
But
way they can
That,
set
I
up
mean,
some more lies on how fast the production bike is.
yeah, exactly.
yeah, but knowing Stoner, apart from that, he wants to ride a bike. So any chance he can ride a GP bike without anybody on the track with him, he'll do it.
Or
Yeah,
an
right.
RC car.
At most the Honda test rider who is still pretty fast. But yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
one other guy and he'll have Motegi to himself.
Right.
So yeah, going back to Suzuki and Ducati being under the Factory 2 option umbrella, Aprilia, who is also going to be returning this season, I can't believe we're already in this season actually, they're also going to be in the Factory 2 option regulations. But the thing is, the expectation for Aprilia, their level of competition isn't really at the same height as Suzuki. Aprilia is basically coming into 2015 with the as Kevin put it, a souped up on steroids version of their superbike, while they're developing a truly GP level bike like the RC, the M1, Desmo Sedici, or the GSX-RR. So I'm not even sure if it would be fair to cast Aprilia in the same shadow as Suzuki at this time. So really, as far as Factory 2 option teams and competition goes, it's Ducati versus Suzuki, whether Ducati likes it or not.
Yeah,
Now,
so for anyone that doesn't know, Factory 2 is given to any manufacturer that hasn't won a race in like the past 3 years. So it doesn't really matter if you come in well, it's not like there's anyone else that has a serious record in GP that could come in now. But because those three guys haven't won a race, they're getting all the extra allotment. They're getting the fuel, the tires, and the testing.
that's exactly right. So let's start off with Suzuki. Arguably the other big news for 2015 because they're coming back full-time into MotoGP with an all-new bike, that being the GSX-RR, which is replacing their previous bike, the GSV-R. They last ran that bike in 2011, which I believe was the last era of the 800cc bikes as well, right?
Yeah, they actually asked if they could run it in 2012, I thought. The 800 version, but they got denied.
I do remember.
Oh, really? I don't remember that. I didn't realize that they had something ready, even with the 800cc.
No, they didn't. They just wanted to keep running in 800, even though everyone else switched to 1,000. They didn't have.
Right.
They just want to keep going.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, that one I vaguely remember.
Yeah, more of Suzuki's just, let's half-ass it and stay in the paddock and not really put any effort into it.
Which hopefully that MO somewhat changed this time out, but we'll see.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So there's my whole opinion of Suzuki, and I kind of almost feel bad for Leish and Maverick because the same stuff happens every year. They come in, they don't even really have any dramatic factory support, right? Like Paul Denning used to run the whole team, and
Right.
yeah,
he would just kind of get the bike at the beginning of the year and maybe develop the setup, but he wouldn't really get parts, and he wasn't getting major electronics development. And his riders would just,
Didn't choose Ben Spies for some reason.
yeah, right. Even though he
Right.
had that wild card and did pretty damn amazing.
Right.
oh yeah. So let me start off by asking you both, and let's start with Kevin on this one. How much of as far as Suzuki, how much of a difference do you guys think it's going to make that Suzuki went from the V4 platform with the GSVR to the inline 4 in the GSX-RR, which is something that should be more familiar to them given their sport production line? Do you think that switch into more familiar engine or platform makes it or would make a difference one way or another as far as the level of success they can expect in this campaign?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they had been running a V4 basically since the inception of four-stroke, and it was always underpowered, serially underpowered. Every single guy, every rider, from Roberts Jr. to Hopkins to whatever. Finally making the switch, I think, is good. Start fresh with a bike you know you can get power out of. Needing that mechanical traction that the Big Bang stuff used to get, with how sophisticated everything is now, I don't think is as big of an issue as Yamaha's clearly showing. So, to me, you know, the biggest drawback they always had was power. You know, the bike handled pretty well, you always heard. And Bautista, even in his first 2 years on that thing, he got some respectable results, not far off from what he was getting on the Honda. I think it handled. It was just you had to override it because of the total lack of power. So putting an inline four there and trying to bump that horsepower up as high as you can, I think will probably end up paying dividends for sure.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, their previous experience with that engine configuration will help, but I mean, I don't know, like, I kind of wish they would have went with the V4 just so that they had, you know, previous prototype experience. But then again, at the same time, they've been out of the game for so long that, you know, anything on the GSV4 probably isn't applicable anymore, right? Like all their electronics, they took months and months to port over. So it's not like they were going to keep any of that old data and bring it over to the new Magneti Marelli system. And I mean, even like I'm thinking that, you know, their World Superbike experience would be helpful because they're on the four-cylinder, because they're on the inline four. But at the same time, though, they don't have a full factory team in World Superbike, and I don't know what their electronic level is in Superbike. So who knows? I mean, a few of the other guys are saying that the full factory spec Aprilia electronics in World Superbike are at a higher level than the open bike electronics. So
yeah, but with this one is just with this particular respect to the engine configuration that they chose to go with. If how much difference could switching to an inline four have made or would make?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that, you know, if they had full factory electronics in Superbike, then that would apply directly to their GP bike and would help them along, you know, and get them moving quicker. But it doesn't seem like they've taken advantage of any, or they've taken advantage of any advantages because they're so slow off the gate already.
Well, as far as any other changes between the GSVR and the GSX-RR, the engine obviously the most obvious one. I can't off the top of my head think of or remember anything else. Maybe you know, on the chassis side as well, but
the new bike looks fucking tits.
Okay, that too. But I do remember that at least the comments from the riders is, you know, when Aleix Espargaro and Vinales finally had their turn with it, they at least do love the way it handles. Rob, can you think of any major changes between the GSVR or the GSX-RR and the chassis side, if any at all, that I'm not aware of?
No, I don't. We haven't really heard much other than the fact that the chassis handles well. I kind of wonder.
But they are using a completely redesigned chassis, right? I mean, I know it's 800 GSVR, but it's still a completely different chassis. Right?
Yeah, I seriously doubt that they pulled anything over from the GSVR because, you know, the weight bias would be different with the different engine. They had to move the V4 and the straight forward, the gearbox is going to be a different shape. Like you can kind of see in the new bike, like they have the clutch like way up in there, you know, pushed back as far towards the swing arm link or the swing arm pivot as possible. And that's, I don't think that's something that they really had to bother with the previous bike. So, I mean, and the current chassis, you know, the general layout looks pretty close to the M1. Just this, they push that engine as far back as they possibly can get it. So,
the M1?
Yeah. But yeah,
okay.
the one thing that I haven't seen anything about is what they're developing for a seamless transmission, because that seems to be a big talking point for technical development these days. And I haven't read anything on it. So,
well, maybe that's the furthest from their plan right now, if they're being realistic at all, because, you know, really that's, I mean, you know what I mean, like kind of like baby steps, so to speak. But yeah, good point.
But I mean, it's all if they have. I mean, Baby steps, sure. I mean, but Ducati's had one for a couple of years, and now you're talking about Honda's is taking the next step. They have seamless up and down shifts.
Yeah.
And so if they're taking baby steps, it's gonna be there'll be some new thing that you have to have, and they won't even have the old version. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like you said, Ducati has had a seamless transmission or a version of it for a while now, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I don't know if Ducati's results in the last season, which have been pretty good relatively speaking, would have been any worse or better with or without their seamless transmission. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Given where they are now with everything else, with their understeering problem and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, Dennis, and I pretty much agree. Like, yeah, if I was investing man hours into developing the bike and I had to, fix an electronic problem or I had to design a seamless transmission, I would go for the electronics problem.
Or an oil starvation problem and your engines blow.
Yep, totally.
Oh, well, that was the first race, right? That was their first full. Well, not even. I can't even say full pledge because they didn't finish the full race, but it was the first race simulation. I don't know. Right?
Yeah, and they had some issues at the test too. I'm pretty sure the Viñales did, and I think what Motomatter was saying at one point, if you're going to have a problem, an engine. You could bench test that a lot more. Like Ducati has, it doesn't handle that well. That's a much bigger problem than we got to make sure we get the oil more evenly distributed through the engine as it runs.
Actually, I think wasn't it Spalding that said though the reason why everyone thinks it was an engine or an oil problem is because it happened on the track, right? Because when you put the engine on the dyno, it's not moving around.
You're not pivoting it constantly.
Yeah. But it's weird though because Suzuki did quite a bit of track testing this past season. So I'm really surprised that they didn't have that crop up before.
Yeah, but with super slow Frenchmen. I mean, come on.
And also, even if they were doing race simulation, I mean, I'm not a racer, but I don't really know how much a race simulation during testing can equate to an actual race. So
I kind of doubt that the oiling characteristics are different when you're like only 3 seconds off the pace. I can't imagine. I mean, maybe it was just Valencia, right? Maybe there was just because of constant left.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe the oil pickups on the wrong side and it just starved it around all the left turns. But who knows?
Was that the GSX-RR's first time into Valencia?
I'm not sure actually.
Yeah.
I couldn't say with any certainty.
Because they hit most of the European tracks, so yeah. I'm sure we could find out.
Well, let's move on. Next thing I wanted to kind of get your opinion on, just sticking with Suzuki, is like whether Ducati likes it or not, they are pretty much Suzuki's benchmark that they're aiming for. I mean, they're really the only other true manufacturer that's relatively within reach for Suzuki, because Ducati's been winless since 2010. Actually, when I looked that up, I can't believe it's been 4 years since Ducati won. It's actually a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Brivio outright said it. They're going for Ducati. I mean, he called the shot. Basically, that's what they're aiming for. It's not even really a secret.
But we're all aware that that said, that the two manufacturers are far from being on even footing. I mean, so at the present time, how far off or how close do you guys think Suzuki is from Ducati? And let's start with Rob.
I think, especially the first couple of races, I think it's going to be a pretty big gap. They're so far down on data and testing, and I mean, they've got one brand spanking new rider and one rider that has never been in a full factory team before. Like they're going to be pretty far back. They should be able to close the gap towards the latter half of the season. Just because, diminishing returns, right? Those first couple of seconds should be pretty easy. As long as they put in the effort, they'll close the gap. But yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be like 15 to 20 seconds race time easily for the first. From
Ducati.
Yeah, from Ducati.
Okay.
Kevin, what do you got?
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to lead me into it, man, Mr. Moderator. I think they're actually going to be closer than we think. I think Rob is dead on with the first half of the season with no data, no practice, new team. They got to wire some kinks out and all that. But I think they're actually going to be a bit closer than we anticipate. And I think it's because of the riders. I think they got – I mean, you guys know my opinion on Maverick. He's the guy. He's the guy who, probably not with Suzuki, but in a couple of years is going to take it to Marquez. And you got Aleix, who's, basically made, the mature part of his career out of overriding bikes that have no business being where they're at. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was fighting Ducatis on a CRT bike, and a guy who was fighting Ducatis, fighting for poles, fighting for podiums. He only got the one, but, on a 3-year-old or 2-year-old, Yamaha that was basically pieced together out of parts of Colin Edwards' bike half the time. I think they're closer than we think to Ducati.
Well, so what, would you put them, like, at the end of the season, would you put them kind of at where Ducati was this year? Like,
yeah.
Dovi had some good races, right, where he finished like 5 seconds back from the leaders. Like, you think Suzuki's going to get that close towards the end of the year?
Maybe not that close. I just think they're closer to Ducati than people are giving them initially credit for. I think Depunier is just not that fast, and he's got a peculiar setup and riding style. I remember Hopkins commenting on that back when he switched to Kawasaki about the bike was just set up poorly. He was a year off of any competitive. I think the bike is probably faster than we think as it is, as was the sentiment echoed by both of them at that first test. That they were surprised that it was better than they thought. Once Maverick settles in and Aleix, comes to grips with it, I think they're going to be closer. I don't think Aleix is better than either of the Andreas, but I think his willingness to kind of put it on the line for 6th place, is going to get him time that maybe Dovizioso wouldn't do, when he knows he's in 5th and he's just going to bring it home. Meanwhile, Espargaro is going to be riding like it's going to get him a podium.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you about Aleix. He is going to make the Suzuki look good, like, no matter how good the bike is. Like,
right.
He's done it with everything.
Or not.
It is. Yeah, that kid is nuts. Well, I guess he's like, 26 now, so he's not that young anymore.
Yeah, he's not really that young. That's the thing. He's kind of had a second career revolution. He rode for Pramac a couple of years ago, didn't do much, and then I was weird because even in the lower classes, he never did much. Something about, I think, those Bridgestones, the newer ones, and he just got a fire under his ass, man, because he wasn't all that great a while ago.
Well, yeah, he had that one trip, though. He lost his ride and then, like, came back and had, like, a quick, Moto2 jaunt or something and, like, put it in the box. Like, that was nuts. But, yeah, go ahead, Dennis. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, with Kevin mentioning Bridgestones are effectively tires, we all know how big of a factor electronics are in the whole GP grid as far as competitiveness. And even though everybody's going to Dorna's spec ECU as of this season, Ducati kind of has a little bit of an upper hand in that, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I remember that Ducati has had a hand in developing the spec ECU that the whole grid is eventually going to be using.
Well, actually, they're all the factories get a hand in developing the spec software.
But at the start, weren't they? Wasn't that effectively their software?
Yeah, they just tried to cheat. It was great.
Yeah, so Kevin's totally right. They tried to cheat. Essentially, what they did is because they hadn't yet decided if they were going to go open or if they were going to go factory, they gave Dorna a bunch of, like, parts of their software and said, let's run this in the open spec. They were thinking that they were going to go open, so they wanted to make the open software better. What ended up happening was all the open teams, they weren't ready for that. Like, the software that Ducati had suggested was too complicated for them.
Yeah, they're like, here, Paul Bird, figure this out. Meanwhile, give us everything we want.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, a smaller team, the technicians would take a while to come up on that, and they would actually go slower with the wrong values in there than they would if they just didn't have that option. So that was part of the justification for Dorna making the whole Factory 2 thing, was to get Ducati happy and keep the open bikes happy too.
It was even better than using a 1000 and just de-stroking it to make it an 800.
So now,
Oh
on
man,
one hand, as
I
far as
forgot.
electronics are concerned, you've got Ducati who has that kind of slight advantage, not just over Suzuki, but the whole grid. And then on the other hand, you have Suzuki who, while they were even developing their bike with the intent of coming back into MotoGP, were developing it with their own proprietary electronics. So uh, I guess with us, or not us rather, but with MotoGP moving to Michelin spec tires next season, do you think that Suzuki's disadvantage in being so late in using Dorna's electronics can be somewhat offset by everybody being on brand new spec tires next season?
Oh yeah, I mean the playing field is gonna level like instantaneous. Once those tires come out and once the spec software comes out, like it's just gonna everyone's previous data from the years past is, it'll be kind of useful, but it won't be perfect. Like it's like, and that was assuming you were staying on the same tires. But with everyone going to different tires, the
Yeah,
data almost becomes it's not useful.
reset.
Yeah, but it
Except
resets.
for Rossi, because Michelin's just going to make like the tires Rossi used back in the day.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. I don't think it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. I seriously wonder what Michelin is gonna do because Dorna has said quite a few times that they want to bring the level of the tires down to kind of bunch the field back up. Well, I don't know if they've said to bunch the field back up, but I figure that's why they're doing it. And I mean, it'll probably work, um,
they've,
except for
they've openly said they want tires that fall off. That wear at a particular rate that change lifetimes to add strategy. I think what I mean. Like, and Bridgestone was basically saying we're not going to make our tires worse, but I think they basically openly said we want tires that wear, that don't just have 100% grip from out of the gate as long as you keep them in this exact operating temperature.
Yeah, so I mean
Yeah,
that'll change the electronic strategies too because they need to make sure, I mean all the electronics will again focus on making sure that you got tire at the end of the race. And
Right.
I mean it works fine in World Superbike. Like those Pirellis do not last the whole race at the same lap time. Like sometimes they fall off 2 seconds a lap. And the racing is great at the end of some of those races. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Michelin.
Yeah, it was Ben Spies who said not too long ago. I mean, I know he's no longer in the sport, but he said as far as tires are concerned, that they don't need to be grippy from green flag to checker. They just need to be able to last in the sense of not being dangerously worn out throughout the race, and the racing itself will just become closer.
Yeah, I mean, they need to not do what happened at Phillip Island when we had a
Yeah,
mandatory pit stop, right? So, I mean, if the
yeah,
Bridgestones, if they had, 3 laps of amazing grip and then they'd fall off and have less grip, I bet you those tires wouldn't have chunked so bad because the riders would just spin them up and go slower and they wouldn't get heat into them. But yeah, we'll find out.
but it as where it stands right now, it looks like it's definitely favorable for Suzuki that the whole grid is going to be going to brand new spec tires being Michelin for next season, huh?
I think it's going to slow down the guys at the front like crazy. There's no way that Michelin's front tire is going to have the grip that Marquez needs to do that corner entry thing that he does.
Yeah,
I just don't. I just is it. There's no possible way their tires will be as good as Bridgestone's simply because they haven't been making, running, and developing tires on MotoGP bikes for the past 5 years. So it's going to
right.
slow the front guys down.
I think
You know.
it's going to hurt Jorge the most, in my opinion.
Yep. Big
Like,
time.
I think Marquez is, I mean, he could go back to riding it like a Moto2 bike, right? That's one of the things he said about the Dunlops was you just could not trust that front tire, which is why they enter the corner sideways, right? If he could trust the front tire on a Moto2 bike, he'd have the rear tire in the air the whole time.
Right. No,
Um,
I wasn't trying to insinuate Marquez was not going to win.
oh,
Just that the guys are going to be closer because they're going to have to be slowed down slightly.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we will definitely see a slightly different rider come to the front. Um, like I said, Jorge will probably lose a few tenths until he learns to ride again. I don't think Valet is going to get hurt that much. I don't know about Danny, and then everyone else, everyone else
Well,
probably
Danny,
doesn't.
is he even going to be there?
Yeah, I know. We'll find out.
He's re-signed for 2 years, isn't he?
Yeah, but that was last year and this year.
No, okay.
No, that's
I
this year and
thought it,
next year.
Is it?
yeah,
Okay. I thought for sure
yeah.
he hadn't actually signed for 2016 yet. That his contract was up at the end of this year. Okay, my mistake.
He's on the he's
That's
on
all right. Well,
the same like years as Valet, right?
Right.
Yeah.
well, again, you guys provided a perfect segue because my next question was going to be for us to sidestep the technical disparity between Suzuki and Ducati and instead talk about the riders. Ducati has retained both the Andreas, Dovizioso, and Iannone, while Suzuki not only went with fresh blood to them, but proven and fresh talent with Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales, respectively. Now, strictly speaking on talent, which of the two teams do you guys think has the stronger lineup for both continued development and competitiveness in a race of their respective bikes?
Ooh. For next year, definitely Ducati. Like
Yeah.
for sure. Um, like potential though and continued development. I don't know. Maverick is the big unknown for me. Like we know he's good. We know he's hungry and fast, but we'll see what he's able to do when he's got, a million options of things he can change and he's got factory input and all that stuff. So I'm not sure what he's going to do with that.
It sounds crazy to say, but I actually think Espargaro is the weakest of those four riders. As much as he's a total badass, I think right now, starting at race 1 of 2015, Dovizioso is still the best of those four, and Iannone's the second best. I think Maverick Vinales has massive potential, but he's a rookie. It's his first test, first race, and he's not going to be the kind of guy like Marquez was just because the bike's not there yet. But long term, Vinales could surpass those guys. Dovizioso's getting older.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like, I think next year, like, Maverick will probably lose to the other three, at least in the championship. But after that, I would put him second or third between all four of
Right,
those
next
guys.
year, you mean this year or next year, 2016?
In 2015, because he's a rookie and because Suzuki's
Yeah,
so
okay.
underdeveloped and he can't, ride the shit out of the bike already like Aleix can, yeah, Maverick will be fourth, but with all of those guys. But I think after that, yeah, second or third. If we're still
there's no
just comparing
question
those two.
There's no question as far as Dovizioso's development skills. Personally, I can't say I could say the same about either Iannone or Espargaro, actually. So, as far as continued development of this Suzuki or the GSX-RR, I'm actually kind of curious, which of the two is more useful at that particular facet.
I think the two Italian riders in an Italian team is really going to help out for Ducati and Iannone especially. Like he's going to be able to get his point across easily, and he's going to be confident that everyone's going to understand him. Whereas at Suzuki, right, you've got two Spanish guys talking with the Japanese engineers, and there might be a language barrier. They haven't worked together before. The Suzuki team hasn't been in GP. So and Brivio built the team. Brivio had to build a new team. So who knows how their development's going to go? It's going to be
Okay, but in all fairness, Ducati's biggest problem has been a recurring problem for a long time now. Understeer. I mean, it seems to be something that just, even if they're getting close, it's just eluded them. So I wonder if who's still in a better kind of position. Ducati, even with all their development, still hasn't solved that one nagging problem, or Suzuki, who just has to kind of come back into the fold. And I guess I just wonder which one will happen first: Ducati figuring out their major understeer problem, or Suzuki getting up to speed with the rest of the grid?
Ducati first, for sure.
Ducati only has one thing. They got a rocket of an engine, and the bike brakes pretty well. And they got two really good riders. They just got one thing they got to figure out. I mean, as well as continuing to develop. So
but
one
they've been
big
trying
thing
to figure it out
versus
for a long time now.
one big thing versus Suzuki's, 70 little things.
I actually think that Ducati probably already has it fixed. We get the
Really?
new bike. Yeah, we get the new bike at the end of February, right? The GP15 is coming out. It's the full redesign from GG.
Right.
They've had so much development from a real test rider in Puro, right? Like,
Who's the same age, Italian, and rode in Moto 2 as Iannone. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't get any better of a complimenting test rider for one of your factory riders than an Italian guy that's the same age, culture, and as your rider who's a Moto 2 winner.
yeah, and they've been planning this bike since Gigi got there, maybe even slightly before. But like, it's not like, it's not like when Rossi got them to move to the aluminum front subframe, right? Where they did that in like a month and a half with no testing whatsoever. They just said, hey, let's make it and run it. Like, this has been a well thought out plan that they've done so much testing for. Like, there is no chance in hell that the new bike is going to handle the same as the old one. Like, maybe the new bike will have some other crazy problem that they'll have to figure out, but I kind of doubt it. Like Kevin said, they only got one issue, and it's the understeer. And with all the testing that they've done, they have to know which direction they need to move the engine, how they need to affect the weight bias, where they put the rider, where they put the tank, like everything. Like, they've tested every little piece, which is anti-Ducati. It's not what they haven't done that for, Stoner won the championship, and after that they pretty much stopped testing things. And how long ago was that?
That was, oh my God, 7 years, 8 years.
God, it seems so long ago.
So long ago.
Oh my God.
And they just, maybe they did some testing when they made the carbon fiber bike. Maybe not. Who knows? But Gigi has built a non-Ducati, right? It's not the same company. Like, they're operating like Honda and like Yamaha, and they're building bikes with like a well thought out process.
There is a lot at stake at that new bike that they're going to roll out, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing, like, no matter what, it's going to be different. So, I mean, even if they don't fix the understeer, they will know more. But at the same time, I think they're going to fix it. I think they'll be a little slower in the beginning because, they're going to have to figure the setup out. And it's unfortunate that they're definitely not going to have it at Sepang 1. But after the end of the February, and they can keep testing all they want. So,
right.
How messed up would it be if they actually do or have already fixed it with this bike they're about to roll out? And here comes the Michelin spec tires, and it's like, oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? Like, the reset button's going to get hit with the new tires, but I don't think they're going to throw away. Like, I don't think the new bike is going to be the end of it. Like,
I just think it would be hilarious. Like, they finally solve it, but then it only works for them this year because next year reset button with the tires. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm just kind of used.
Yeah, I mean, what if Dovi wins the championship, right? And then
you guys don't even want to know what I'll do if he wins the championship.
If Dovi wins the championship, it's the CRC podcast is going to be just a Kevin show, basically.
Yeah, you don't even know. I'm going to flame out on Barf like crazy. I mean, I'm calling every moderator. I mean, things I can't even repeat. I'm going insane. I'm posting naked pictures of myself with a giant 4 hanging from me.
Italian. Yeah. He'll be talking and posting in Italian. Yeah, basically.
Right.
Well, as far as topics or questions that I got for that with Suzuki and Ducati, that's all I've got. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else or anything else.
I do actually. I want to make a caveat. The guy pointed out on Barf, and I will say, when we were talking last time about who could beat Marquez, I totally blanked on Iannone, and I think he can. I think he's the guy. He doesn't care. He's beat him before. He's not caught up in the glamour and the hero worship of him. He thinks he can beat him. He just was hurt, and he has got to get the right bike. I don't think he can beat him for the championship, but I think, Iannone's, you saw a couple times last year, he doesn't, I mean, he's a honey badger, dude. He doesn't give half of a fuck, and he is going to bring it hard if he can.
All right, wait.
Okay.
Kevin, $20 to Barf that Dovi gets a win before Iannone does.
Oh,
God. Okay.
But
Yeah.
we're not talking this season, right? Just period. That Dovi's going to get a win before Iannone does.
I just
Uh,
don't.
I
As
think
much
it'll
as
happen this season.
you think they're going to get a win this season?
I'm quite an optimist, but I think it'll happen this season.
Okay, in all fairness, let's say whether a wet or dry win. I'll add that.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, that's the only way I think. I mean, I think Rob, if we just say a win period without specifying wet or dry, then maybe I could jump on board with you on that one.
Yeah, if we left it open, it's probably I would go. It's definitely more likely. I mean, who knows though? The new bike may perform very poorly in the rain.
Yeah,
But
they could have this. They could have the opposite problem. It could be a total piece of crap in the rain now, and then be good in the dry.
yeah, I don't know. I think their previous issues, well, like they fixed the pumping and they made the braking good. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think their dry performance this year is going to be, I think we're going to get another step forward like we got last year. So last year they went from, 20 to 30 seconds back all the way to like 5 to 10, 5 to
And
15.
to getting podiums. He got a legit podium, second place in the dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Coda and it's a horsepower track, but they got it. They earned it straight up.
Yep. Yeah, so we get another performance like that, in those same conditions. I think Ducati is going to be considerably closer this year. Like, I think like they'll be 2 to 10 seconds back like in every race. And when you're
man.
2 seconds back in every race, like when you're there, 2 seconds
You
back
try
in a race.
so much harder.
Oh, so much harder. I mean, we saw a dramatic performance or increase in performance from Dovi from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, right?
Right.
He realized that the bike was actually starting to improve and things were working, and he just he went crazy and just had amazing performances. And you just like when things click, when they go right, riding is so much easier.
Yeah, personally speaking, it actually felt really good to see the development in the races of the bikes and also the demeanor of the riders. I mean, you could just tell that things are clicking, and it's funny to say that I'm getting excited over that or seeing that because it's not like they're winning or anything, but it's just I think Ducati. I mean, GP needs Ducati to be competitive again, and it was really really exciting to see tangible results and all the work that they're doing throughout this past season.
Yeah, no one wants to see like a rider interview where they're just like, "Oh yeah, this is what it is."
You mean like every Cal Crutchlow interview?
Yeah, and Dovi last year, right? Like,
Hey, even Crutchlow had I mean not just moments of brilliance throughout the end of last. I mean it was just good to see red again up front. I mean red's just my color, so in some ways I'm rooting for Ducati for their continued success in their development, and I hope you're right that they fix the understeer with this new bike they're going to be rolling out next month.
yeah, I mean the bike is going to be like tiny. It's going to be tiny. The mass centralization is going to be dramatically better. Like there is no way that it's not going to fall into corners better. I mean,
Yeah, I mean the previous one was huge. I mean in terms of GP bike standards go, it was like a boat compared to the other bikes.
Yeah.
So, any kind of mass centralization size-wise that gets all the American fans mad because only small guys can fit on it, has got to be an improvement just in that alone.
yeah, I mean the old bike
Interesting.
was like your R1 Dennis versus like the Honda 600. Like dramatic difference. Like if you compare the Ducati to the RCV, like that's how big the difference was. And
So earlier you were saying that Ducati does they develop or make bikes now like Ducati didn't used to, basically like Japanese and like the Japanese do, and that the Decimo Sedici now, the one that they're rolling out, is going to be really really tiny. So what you're saying is basically GG created an Aprilia.
Right.
pretty much, but a better one.
I can't wait to see that one actually.
Oh man, I wonder if they're probably not going to unveil it at the what's the like the snow festival that they
Say
World
up in the
Ducati.
snow in the Alps and shit.
The World Ducati weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
And well, Ferrari's usually there too. They're probably not going to unveil it. That's going to suck. Because it's not going
I
to be
can't
ready.
remember, but is that even a preseason event?
Bold new graphics, bro.
Hey, actually, I like the matte red finish. That was actually really, really cool.
Right.
Well, unless you guys don't have anything else to add, I think we have enough for to wrap up the second episode of the podcast. Actually, admittedly, I can't believe that we have 2 episodes already. But
yeah.
Well, wait.
Yeah,
So did we decide it was the Dovi Unone bet for lifetime, and only dry or only wet or what?
I'm not one of those people who takes the the pussy way out, like, oh no, only wet or only dry. A win is a win. I'll say Iannone wins before Dovi. I don't care what the conditions are. I don't care if they have to have 3 stops for different tires because Bridgestone drops the ball.
All right, and
okay. Well, then let's just say
lifetime bet.
All right.
what's
Awesome. Dennis, you were saying?
Real money or hobo dollars?
No, $20 donation to Barf.
Okay.
So basically $20 to my pocket, yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, you moderator.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. You're the fuzz now.
Dude, somebody's got to be. Somebody's got to be, all right?
Someone's got to unnecessarily do mod things like close things for no reason and make things not have comments allowed. And
well, you guys have been behaving, otherwise I'd be banning people. So in the absence of having to ban somebody, then I'll just mod
It's the off season. There's nothing to talk about. Of course we're behaving.
Right. I only get crazy on Barf near banning in the kitchen sink. Don't you guys venture over there? It's wild.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, Dennis, I got nothing.
All right.
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think we have perfect for the second episode. So at this point, there should be some testing coming up. Be it not MotoGP, but the season's gonna ramp up as far as starting up for all kinds of road racing. So it's gonna be interesting because the thing that is going to be different between now and when the season is going on is we have to figure out how frequent this is going to be. You know what I mean? So it's going to be very exciting once road racing basically starts up, and I wish I can give barfers right now an idea of what to expect, but really we're kind of winging it as just like anybody else. So stay tuned. And we will try to keep bringing this to you for as long as we can.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Don't worry, I'm going to cut that lull in between so that it's immediately Kevin saying yeah.
No, you got to leave the lull, dude. The awkward, like, Andy Kaufman stuff.
I thought